I really cherish the multiculturalism in Australia, not just in the philosophical sense or conceptual sense, but it's tolerance. People's difference and language difference, cultural difference, religious difference, all of that. So it's not going to be a barrier for people to get together, to marry each other. It's going to be a plus for us because that enriches our lives.
Australia is being well known being a multicultural, people live together. Yeah, so even though that they might or might not know each culture very well, but we have more open-minded to listen or to accept people from different culture.
I think that's right, and there's no discrimination when you go into a restaurant or anything along those lines because, again, we're so used to multiculturalism here that you can be in a restaurant with 20 different nations or different cultures at any one point in time.
虽然有一些人始终在讽刺所谓多元文化价值，但澳洲社会的开放度让跨文化情侣更容易寻得接纳。
I think it's definitely much easier living in a multicultural sort of city and country as well.
Because as a couple, we haven't really necessarily faced any direct, comments that would be considered racist or. I'm trying to think of any stereotypes.
Oh, really?
I can't really think of anything. Yeah.
Chicks are people who tend to stereotype quite a lot, the Vietnamese, the gypsies, and it doesn't matter where you are, they always look at you, they stare at you, they make some sort of judgments about you. But in here, it's all of that, it's gone, it's not in the picture.
And living here in Australia is really cool actually, because it's not like UK, but it's not China. It's kind of like, you could say it's in the middle, because it has the heat like China, but you speak English like England. So it's kind of like a compromise, as I said before.
但有时候，在两个文化背景下生活并不是易事。那么，在澳华人活得容易吗？
Yes and no. It is quite easy to have a Chinese culture in Australia since there's so much multicultural in Australia already. But the no is that sometimes if you just want to go out to a party or something, your mum doesn't really get how it works and stuff. So yeah.
对那些围绕着多元文化社会的理想和含义做出的讨论，有时候多元文化更多的是显现在理论上，而不是实践上。
The political theory to me is very abstract, actually a lot of theories are very abstract, but multiculturalism to me, what is it?
My family live in Noble Park, which is very close to Springvale, which has a very high population of people from Asian backgrounds as well as European backgrounds like Maltese and Italian as well. So it's quite a cultural hub in terms of going into Springvale. So growing up, that I have very fond memories of holding onto my mum's hand and getting through the Asian grocery stores and seeing the piles of Asian Korean veggies and going through the fish market and the butchers and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I've heard that 1/3 of Melbourne is Asian, so I think that it's really helped us. It's more common than than unusual.
There is a difference between the older generations and the younger generations, and growing up here in Melbourne, having that mix, of the traditional Chinese beliefs and cultures, and growing up in Melbourne, having all the open-minded views and the mixture of opinions and everything, it all kind of does form a sort of a different generation, I think. Yeah.
I like about Melbourne because of the trams and the multicultural is also. Public transport, never forget that one.
For me, I have quite a positive, positive kind of combination of balancing the Asian culture and, the modern kind of Australian culture in terms of the attitudes and values, I guess.
在所有跨文化情侣可能遇到的问题中，最明显的一项是语言。
Language, I think you need the basics, obviously, to know what each other's wants from each other. I'm not just talking about pots, pans, milk, and water. Talking about your feelings, your relationship, wants and not wants, etc. You need to have, to have a long-lasting relationship, you need to understand what the other party says. And if you're only speaking sign language to each other, then I think that those deeper things that make a relationship work could be quite difficult to get across, and therefore cause friction in the relationship.
Right at the beginning, we did spend quite lots of time with Jason's grandparents, and I was surrounded... Parents, yes. So I was surrounded with lots of Chinese. I was in the environment, and it was very interesting language. And if you're part of this new kind of, new relationship where your husband is Chinese, I think you have to really learn about the culture, and probably language is one of the things that you have to learn as well.
She knows how to speak Chinese, but it's not fluent Chinese.
Yeah,
Say something.
Yeah. Well, if I try to speak some Chinese, they always laugh at me, so I don't really like to speak too much of it.
When Marcella first arrived and she went out with me, and we're all speaking Mandarin and she didn't understand at all a word of it, she felt so left out from the process. And at the time I didn't realize that. I just, just sit there and just look at people, and they have facial expressions and things like that. So, or just think about something else. I couldn't understand her at all until I went to check.
I hated it going outside to restaurants, with Chinese people, and because I knew I'm just going to be sitting there and listening to them speaking Chinese. And so then I decided I have to do something about it. Probably have to learn some Chinese. So
even though my parents cannot speak Czech, my mother-in-law cannot speak English or Mandarin, so there's always, hand gesture communication. You look at them communicating with each other, it's so funny. But it worked. It worked.
At the beginning, you cannot speak English well. Doesn't matter. But the important is that you are now try hard to learn English. You can say that is very important for your future communication.
太阳出来照四方。
跨文化父母的挑战是什么时候、怎么样，甚至是否教他们的孩子两方语言。
For me, in the future, when we do have kids, it's very important for our children to be able to speak Cantonese. And it will be challenging because at home, obviously, we speak English to each other, but I will try and speak Cantonese to my child as much as possible.
Yeah, I already know English really well because I'm speaking it right now, and I still learn it at school. But Chinese, I learn at home.
I can speak Chinese, I can speak English, I can speak a little bit of Czech.
Even though, we live in Melbourne, we still speak Cantonese at home. I speak predominantly English with my brother, but we were encouraged to speak Chinese to our parents, which I'm really grateful for, that I can speak Cantonese.
休息过后，我们见识一下亚洲人和西方人的闪电约会。